Welcome inside Appalachia. I'm Mason Adams. This week, we remember Rex Stephenson. He's known for his stage performances of the Jack Tales, which have captivated school kids since the 70s.
He didn't know that it would have such a life. After a year or so, he thought, well, maybe we should do something else. But people kept saying, well, can I book a Jack Tale show?
Also, keeping the family farm going after 6 generations can be rough.
Nobody ever forced us into it. Like, it was never, you have to do this, or we could do what we wanted. You weren't expected to come back if you didn't want to.
And some parts of southern Appalachia still practice the tradition of keeping up community gravesites for Decoration Day.
This is honoring ancestors and strengthening family ties and community ties and maintaining a cemetery.
You'll hear these stories and more this week inside Appalachia.
Support for this program is brought to you by Solar Holler, helping West Virginia homeowners manage their energy costs through solar power. Details at solarholler.com. Support for this program is provided by the Thrasher Group, an architecture, engineering, and field services firm serving West Virginia clients and communities since 1983. More information at thethrashergroup.com.
Welcome inside Appalachia. I'm Mason Adams. A Virginia playwright who brought Appalachian folk tales to hundreds of thousands of children and people across the United States has died. Rex Stephenson was a theater professor at Ferrum College at the base of the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia. He was 81. Stephenson wrote numerous plays, including at least 25 that were performed on stage. He was known for playing famed American author Mark Twain, and he was best known for telling Jack Tales in performances that mix drama, humor, and musical performances to entertain and engage their audiences. Here's Stephenson in a Jack Tales performance from 1990. He's the person playing the kazoo.
Well, I was just trying to play my kazoo a little bit.
Well, I don't know, but I think these fine people here would much rather hear my story than your kazoo.
I'll play it lower.
All right. Oh, way too loud. A little lower. Yeah, still too loud. Low, I said. Oh, that's perfect right there. Thank you. Now, all you ladies, take warning. From this day now and never speak.
The Jack Tales relate the adventures of a scrappy protagonist. In Stephenson's telling, they were often set in Appalachia and incorporated regional culture and tropes. Emily Blankenship Tucker teaches Appalachia music and theater at Ferrum College.
Jack Tales are stories, mostly about a central Jack character. And the Jack that I know is lucky and he's smart. And he goes through all kinds of situations where he encounters devils or giants or witches or big brothers that pick on him. And he always outsmarts whatever he's up against, and he always kind of comes out on top.
Stephenson's Jack Tale players celebrate their 50th anniversary this year. They've performed for more than 1 million audience members in 34 states and in England. But the group of players Stephenson cultivated is more than just a troupe of theater performers. It's a community with its own sense of history and lineage.
On the banner, it says, today and always, because the stories that we tell, the Jack Tales themselves, are part of a long oral tradition. There's also an oral tradition among the troupe, among the company. There's sort of a passing down of learning. You can say, I played this part and I can tell you who I learned it from and who they learned it from. And you can see sort of the contributions of the storytellers as it goes on.
Stephenson presented the first edition of his Jack Tales at Callaway Elementary School in Franklin County in 1975. Blankenship Tucker says that from the get-go, they were designed to engage kids in the audience.
And you can see pictures of actors going up to kids and saying, "Oh, would you help me carry this?" There's nothing really there, but the kids get up and they all struggle together because they see it.
There's a photo of Stephenson in a hallway at Ferrum, showing him surrounded by kids, smiling, roaring, laughing.
It's a picture of Rex showing them probably let's be scary, I'm guessing. So he's surrounded by kids who are probably, I don't know, maybe 9, 10, and they're all kind of going, "Rah!" and leaning into that.
Blankenship Tucker met Stephenson and joined up with the troupe in 2001. She was just out of college and ran into him at a conference in Philadelphia where he was looking for actors. She remembers reading about the Jack Tales players at a showcase where various theater companies were pitching their upcoming shows.
It said this was in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains, in a rural place, that we'd be out in elementary schools and performing traditional Appalachian tales and songs and doing other kinds of theater. And I remember thinking, oh, that's the place I want to go. And I remember meeting Rex in sort of a callback. And I can remember him saying, "You're going to work hard. You're going to be up before the sun comes up. You're going to be out on the road in elementary schools." And I just thought, yeah, that's what I want to do.
But what started as a summer job turned into more than 2 decades of working with Stephenson and Ferrum. Today, Tucker, her wife Rachel Blankenship Tucker, and their son Silas all work and perform at the Blue Ridge Dinner Theater, which Stephenson helped found in the 1970s. The theater showcased a variety of productions, but the Jack Tales became his calling card.
Rex said that, at first he didn't know that it would have such a life. And after a year or so, he thought, well, maybe we should do something else. But people kept saying, well, can I book a Jack Tale show? So it just has been something that folks have loved all that time.
Stephenson retired from Ferrum College in 2012. But that wasn't the end of his story, or Jack's story. Emily Blankenship Tucker, Rachel Blankenship Tucker, and Rebecca Crocker came together to gather archival materials and clean up the old theater at Ferrum College. Tina Hanlon is a Ferrum College English professor who worked as Stephenson's script consultant for decades.
They came up with the most brilliant plan to completely remodel this space. So they got him back teaching. They got the idea for these murals and everything, and it's so wonderful that they did it.
In 2023, they relaunched the Blue Ridge Dinner Theater. The theater itself was named in honor of Rex Stephenson, and his image adorns the wall. Across from it is another illustration of the cover of Richard Chase's 1943 edition of the Jack Tales. Stephenson had received permission from illustrator Berkeley Williams' widow to use the image for his Jack Tale players. Below it reads, "The House That Jack Built." The 1990 performance of the Jack Tales concludes with Rex Stephenson speaking to the crowd of students.
Now back up in the mountains, morning comes pretty early, so we got to break up all this good times we've been having. But I do want to tell you, that's very sweet of you, and my mother would appreciate it. But all of Jack's adventures, why, a man by the name of Mr. Chase, he wrote them all down. And they're good stories for you to read or for you to read your brothers and sisters. There's 2 books, and, well, we hope you read them, and thanks a lot for inviting us to your school today.
Stephenson died in August at the age of 81. The 50th anniversary show and tour by the Jack Tale Players will take place in October. To learn more, visit our website, wvpublic.org. That story is part of our Folkways reporting project, which covers arts and culture in our region. You can find more Folkways stories at our website, wvpublic.org. Our next story comes to us from Cade Miller, who reported it when he was a student at the News Lab at Penn State. The lab works to address gaps in news coverage, including the plight of family farms. Miller's family came from farming. His mother grew up on a dairy farm just down the road from the Wakefields, a family that's farmed for 6 generations. Miller spent months reporting on the Wakefields and their struggle to keep the family business going. Last year, he produced a documentary that speaks to a dynamic happening across the U.S. as people grow away from their agricultural roots. It's titled The Wakefields, 2 Brothers, 6 Generations.
Thad Wakefield is a farmer. He lives with his girlfriend Mary in the farmhouse that has been in his family for generations. Thad is in his 30s, and farming is the only thing he's wanted to do.
Once it's in your blood, you can't get out. It's like the mafia. You know too much.
Thad grew up on the family farm in Bedford County, Pennsylvania. His father farmed, his father's father farmed, his father's father's father farmed, and so on. Thad says he's a 6th-generation farmer.
It's one of those things that it's a challenge, but on the same hand, it's fun because then you get to see what you're doing and see where you're going, where you came from.
He went to Penn State and studied agribusiness. Mary, Thad's girlfriend, grew up on a dairy farm in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. She now works as a veterinarian that visits farms. She graduated from UPenn and recently moved onto the farm with Thad. They met at the county fair in 2022. Bedford is a tiny slice of Pennsylvania. Its total population is around 47,000. In 2017, Bedford had 1,159 farms. To say the least, it's a farming area. And I would know. My mom grew up there on a dairy farm. In fact, the majority of my family lives in Bedford today. Aunts, uncles, cousins, distant relatives, and my grandma. I am 1 generation away from my family's farm. That's 3 less than the average American. My mom's dad was a dairy farmer in Bedford. Until his retirement, only a year or 2 after I was born, he milked twice a day, planted, fertilized, and harvested crops, all while looking after his family. My grandma was a kindergarten teacher. Growing up, I had nothing but respect for farmers. I know their days are long. They can't go on a lot of breaks, and the pay is not something people hope for. A lot of things are beyond human control. Weather, the economy, sickness, whatever it may be. My grandfather's life was impacted by all of these things. Yet, he never once changed his career. My grandma, who grew up on a dairy farm, has this little quote. Farmers have to be hardworking, they have to love what they do, and they have to be a little bit crazy. When I told her I was going to share her quote on this podcast, she wanted me to explain that crazy isn't like wild or odd. She means farmers are bold. They have to care so much about their craft that even if they don't have a steady income, they keep trying to do better. My grandfather passed away in 2017, 14 years after he stopped farming. His legacy continues to this day as the first farmer to plant soybeans in the county. And the Wakefields, they live across the valley. They're family friends. Farming in Bedford started before the Revolutionary War. In the 1790s, Bedford played a large part in the Whiskey Rebellion. Back then, the federal government imposed a tax on whiskey production. But whiskey for farmers was an essential income. As tax collectors began to enforce the levy across the nation, including Bedford County, tensions escalated and protests began. Violence broke out across the state. Eventually, the farmers who were working as whiskey distillers refused to pay the tax. That's when George Washington took matters into his own hands. He formed a militia to march across western Pennsylvania and defuse the violence. President Washington forced distillers to pay the tax.
Need a little bit more money to pay for the Revolutionary War, so they needed to tax the farmers to pay for the Revolutionary War.
That's Thad's dad. We'll meet him in a bit. But it's said that when Washington marched over the mountain and looked down upon Friends Cove, the little valley in Bedford where Thad's farm is, he saw about a dozen stone farmhouses being used as whiskey distilleries. Washington's arrival spread, farmers reacted. The rebellion quickly came to an end, and the farmers each paid the whiskey tax.
So pretty much the family farm was purchased by our well, this would be Kim writing this, so this would have been Dad's great-great-grandfather.
You're 3 great.
3 great you on our deal. And
From humble beginnings, the Wakefield farm has grown through 5 generations of family ownership. Great-grandfather William Franklin Schaefer passed the farm to Walter Clyde Schaefer, who then rented it to John Martin Wakefield in 1961. John, along with his sons, Tom and Jim, formed J.T.J. Wakefield Farms in the 1970s, expanding the farm by purchasing additional land from the neighboring Robert Land Farm. Innovation has been key to the farm's success. In 1962, a farm pond was added for fire protection and recreation. The 1970s saw the construction of a freestall barn to house the growing Holstein herd. And a milking parlor was added in 1981 to streamline operations. The farm embraced technology in the mid-1980s, becoming the first in the area to use a computerized feeding and recording system. From hand milking in the early 1800s to the modern milking parlor, the Wakefield farm has adapted and thrived. Their family-owned farm had become a shining example of agricultural progress. When the farm was thriving under the 5th generation, they had 245 acres. They milked 150 cows a day, and they managed 300 steers. This generation was led by Tom and Jim. They are now in their 70s, but when they took over the farm, they were only in their 20s, recent college graduates. They stood side by side for years, managing the business that operated on the family farm. This was their job. This is how their families earned their living, and this is where everyone lived. But their wives worked off the farm, both teachers. They raised their children on the farm in the hopes that one day the farm would go to them. This is where Thad and his older brother JT come in. Their father, Tom, put them on the payroll after they graduated from college. Jim's son, Scott, same deal. All 5 took an equal cut of the business's profits. But it was quickly clear no one was making enough money. Now think about it. One farm that had supported 2 families was now being asked to support 5. And nothing, other than the number of people drawing salaries, had changed. So this is what they did. Here's JT.
We had sat down in, I think, 16 to try to figure out what the future looked like for everybody. Because at that time, it was my uncle, my dad, Thad, and I, and Scott, which would be my cousin. And it just... There were some issues that nobody wanted to talk about.
And then, one year, as Scott was taking Christmas decorations off the roof, he fell and broke his leg. Everything changed. They were down a guy, but it was also winter. There wasn't much needed to do on the farm, so things proceeded as usual. But in August, their cousin had news. He'd been offered a job at the Farm Bureau that would allow him to work while recovering from his injury. His leg was in bad shape, and a desk job was all he could do at the time. But the truth was, this was a permanent transition. He would never return to working on the farm.
And then my uncle called a meeting and said that he wanted out. I said, okay. And kind of said that he wanted it to be done by January. So, okay.
So basically, the uncle wanted his portion of the company in cash. He outlined a clear list of what he needed to completely walk away. And neither JT nor Thad, nor their father Tom, had the cash to hand over.
Coming up, the second part of Cade Miller's radio documentary, The Wakefields. 2 brothers, 6 generations. You're inside Appalachia. I'm Mason Adams.
Support for WVPB is provided by the Huntington Museum of Art, presenting Joyful Spirits, Haitian art from the Winslow Anderson Collection through February 8, 2026. Details at hmoa.org.
Cade Miller reported on his family's neighbors and their struggle to keep the family farm going for the documentary The Wakefields. 2 brothers, 6 generations. We pick back up at a hard moment for the family, after Scott Wakefield left the farm following an injury, and his father decided to retire and cash out.
So they harvested, and then they sat down to figure out what was next. Now remember, this farm went from being run by 2 guys to 5, then down to 4, then down to 3 in a couple of years. Farming isn't a job that accounts for days off or trading shifts. There's work to get done, and it has to somehow get done. You can't just choose to show up when you want. A lot of planning goes into who will milk on what days, who will work in the fields with whom every week, etc. So Jim and his only son stepping away entirely changes the situation monumentally. Then, in 2018,
And I just happened to be off that weekend. It was New Year's Eve, or New Year's weekend.
Jim mentioned to Tom that they needed to mix more feed.
And Dad's like, okay, well, just, in the morning, just, you can balance it out a different way, just add more corn silage or whatever. And
But Jim, without notice,
he's like, well, that's up to you. He goes, I'm done. This is my last day. Okay.
unlike how he said he would be flexible in January, he was done. He wanted his cut of the farm. Now let me explain something. As a farmer, you're in it for the long haul. You don't get a weekly or monthly salary. Your big payment comes at retirement when you sell the farm. Jim wanted the retirement money he worked his entire life for. So he met Tom with a demand, a price he would be willing to accept for his half of the cut. According to JT, typically for buyouts like these, it consists of an appraiser coming in and looking at everything and then giving it a price. The buyer and the seller will agree on the price, and then the buyer will take on any current loans and debts the farm has. Now, if this is happening with a family farm passing it down to the next generation, then typically these can be handled internally. However, JT said the demands his uncle made were ambitious. It was too much money. And as we all know, when it comes to money, even family can turn against each other. The only way that Tom, JT, and Thad could get the farm would be to sell the assets and split it down the middle with Jim. To pay Jim out, the farm needed to be liquidated. All of their assets needed to be sold, everything but the land and buildings. That means tractors and animals and machinery and the entire milking system. The cash was then divided between Tom and Jim. Jim could take the money and retire. Tom chose to take the money and invest it in his two sons, JT and Thad, continuing the family tradition. As for the land and buildings, Tom, Jim, and their wives had to go to the courthouse to settle who would get what. Their negotiation settled on Tom getting 50% of the land and paying his brother for an extra 2%, bringing him to 52% of the total ground. With that, majority of the buildings went with Tom's land. Tom and Jim's mom was still alive and living in the farmhouse when the disagreements began. So she left in her will that Thad would get the farmhouse since JT already had a home down the road. She passed away in 2019. The dispute was rough for the family, but JT and Thad say the farm sale was harder.
Well, tell me about that.
The farm sale?
Yeah.
That was the worst day of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was rough.
When I spoke with Thad about the farm sale, he described helping people with their trucks and trailers, packing up their very own tractors and equipment that they've had on the farm for years. Luckily, he said, it was time to milk, so he didn't have to watch all of his stuff be driven off the farm and down the road. Now think about it. You grew up doing one thing your entire life. It took up your childhood, your teenage years, your college years, and then, when it's finally your turn to own the empire, it's driven down the street. The farm is totally different. It's quiet. When I was younger, my granddad took me to the Wakefields farm. I don't remember the purpose of the visit, but I remember my granddad had to talk to Tom and sent me into the milking parlor. There, Thad and JT, who were in high school at the time, brought me down and showed me how to milk with all the modern-day machinery. It was lively, one cow after another, and when they were done with that group, out they went, and cows full of milk walked right in. Like clockwork. When I visited recently, it wasn't like how I remembered. Things weren't where they belonged. Okay, so I can't help but notice, but this is like, I mean, you got like your shop equipment in here.
Yeah, because that's kind of a messy situation. So, ideally, this would be a freestyle barn where we just have cows in it. We kind of had to make our own makeshift shop for right now until we get some other stuff done to be able to. Ideally, it'd be nice to build like another shop to where we can get all this out of here in another spot, but till then.
In its heyday, the barn Thad and I are in now could hold up to 150 milking cows. Today, they milk 5. In the wake of the farm sale, Thad and JT had to take on jobs. Thad works as a farm equipment mechanic. JT works in an REI distribution center nearby. A half-empty farm couldn't support them on its own. Here's where we're at. Tom has officially given his half that he got in the settlement to JT and Thad. The two of them are now in the rebuilding stage. They had to take out loans to buy equipment and tractors that they already had on the farm, but had to sell. They want to keep growing the farm to what it used to be, and even larger. They have some other plans, like the possibility of packaging their own beef, or maybe even cheeses or ice cream. JT talked about how he hopes to keep it growing for his kids.
I mean, that's kind of the proud part of it, you know. 6 generations, and you try to set it up, pass it on for the next one to take on.
Is your son going to do it?
We'll see. I don't know. I think so. He likes it.
What about your daughters?
Yeah, they like the animals for sure. But, and you know, that's part of it too. You know, nobody ever forced us into it. Like, it was never, you know, you have to do this, or we could do what we wanted. We had to help. That was part of our chores. But aside of that, you weren't expected to come back if you didn't want to. I mean, that was choice.
In Bucks County, Mary's dad, who was a dairy farmer his whole life, is selling the farm due to other reasons.
Where I'm from, there's a lot of economic pressures.
What's that mean?
So the agricultural industry in Bucks County is pretty well gone. Land is worth a lot. And we are surrounded by, there's a 6-lane highway to our right, a 5-lane highway right in front of us that our driveway's off of, and a subdivision behind us. So it's very much, it's not really feasible to have a farm there anymore. It was hard even when we were still doing it very actively. And in the last 5 or so years, it's only gotten worse. So
He's selling his equipment to Thad and JT, one step in growing the farm like they hope. But this doesn't mean that they're out of the mud yet. They're still buying things and taking out loans to expand. For example, they purchased a tractor off my grandma. It's a big red International 756 tractor with white letters on the side spelling out the Jenny Lynn. It was my granddad's tractor that he named after my mom, Jen. When my grandma was looking to sell some of the equipment from our family farm, Tom said the Jenny Lynn couldn't leave Bedford. Today, it sits in their freestyle barn. In 2022, they bought a used combine for the harvest. While Tom was using it, it caught fire.
That was surreal because you always see pictures of it, but until you actually see one in real life, it kind of, you don't realize how fast they go. But
Nobody was hurt in the fire, other than pride. When a combine catches fire, the only thing you can do is watch. By the time Tom got out,
it was too late. She was gone.
What causes that?
A lot of different things. I think ours was electrical.
So ultimately, Thad and JT, with their father's support, are starting from scratch. I sat down with Thad and Tom to talk about what this really meant.
Farming is different from every profession because, let's take a computer programmer. All they need is a computer to do their job, and they'll do fine for the rest of their life. But, not for you all. What are, some of the expenses that you have to, run through? I kind of, want to paint the picture of how much it actually costs to do it.
You want new prices? Do you want used prices? Do you want a comparison between the two?
You tell me.
So
and I'll write it out.
So basically, depending on it's any.
Where do you want to start at?
Yeah, I guess.
Hold on. Let's take a step back. This conversation lasted an hour. Let me tell you what I understand from listening to the Wakefields. This is what you would need to start a farm near Thad and JT from scratch. A 100-acre farm with a house, barn, and shed in Bedford County, Pennsylvania would cost about $600,000. A used tractor would be $70,000, and a typical beginning farm has 3. A used combine would be about $150,000. A used corn planter, $35,000. A used spreader, $40,000. A used baler, $30,000. A used rake, $8,000. A used mower, $25,000. A used sprayer, $25,000. Corn is about $300 a bag. Soybeans would be about $15 a bushel. Hay and alfalfa would be $300 a bag. Tom and Thad calculated what our new farm would be planting, but I'll save you the details. Dairy cows would be $1,500 each. They estimated starting a farm with 120. Heifers cost $1,200 each. They suggested starting with 40. Insurance would typically cost $3,000 every quarter. Fuel would be about $2,000. The electric bill averages $2,000, and taxes are around $8,000. So, our grand total,
we're at $1,525,500 for me to start off a farm in Bedford County, Pennsylvania.
Pretty much.
And you haven't made a dollar yet.
Yep.
Now, this isn't what the typical farmer would do. Start from scratch. And really, JT and Thad aren't. But according to the Farm Bureau, 30% of America's farmers are beginning farmers. Beginning farmers are those who have been in the business for less than 10 years. The average age of a beginning farmer is 47, and the state with the most is Alaska, with 46% of its farms starting from scratch. Alaska is followed by Georgia and Maine, according to the most recent agriculture census of 2017. Pennsylvania falls in the bottom 15 with the least number of beginning farms in the country. Now, it is common for farmers to have 2 incomes. Growing up, my grandma was a kindergarten teacher. She always told me that farmers had to have 2 incomes to live. According to Ambrook research, 56% of America's farmers have a primary job off the farm. They say, quote, a full 82% of farm household income comes from an off-farm source. That doesn't include spousal income. Like I said, JT works at an REI warehouse 5 days a week. His wife is a dialysis technician. Thad continues to work full-time, as does Mary. They fit farming into the cracks of their weekdays and spend all weekend focused on rebuilding the farm. In late February, just days before I planned to spend time on the Wakefield farm, a text came across my phone. It read, JT Wakefield cut his hand at work badly yesterday and lost half his thumb and index finger. It was worse than that, but I'll spare you. That weekend, JT was on the prayer list in the church bulletin. During Mass the next week, the pastor paused and talked about visiting JT. He was in good spirits, but like always, he was quiet, the Reverend said. JT's name would stay on the bulletin for weeks, months even.
When you're working with mechanical equipment, sometimes it bites you. I got caught in the number 50 roller chain and the drive sprocket and took my fingers through it. So I guess the thumb here is just short of the fingernail. The pointer finger is down to the first knuckle. The middle finger was just debris. It's fine. It just has some stitches. The ring finger was dislocated. They put it back together. And the pinky finger is down to just below the second knuckle. So,
American novelist and farmer Wendell Berry once wrote, "Farming is not a business, as many farmers would say. It's a vocation. It is not controllable." With this injury, JT is out. Maybe for months, maybe even a year. But he's now the paperwork guy. He makes calls, he looks for people selling equipment, he does whatever he can do to help the farm from behind a desk. Thad is now responsible for the physical labor, but with the help of Mary and their dad, they will continue. The Wakefields are farmers. This land, this vocation, the ups and downs, this is all part of a 6th-generation story.
That was Cade Miller's radio documentary, The Wakefields. 2 brothers, 6 generations. Miller graduated from Penn State University last May. Honoring ancestors is a familiar practice found among all cultures. In the southeastern United States, it can take the form of Decoration Day. Families come together in specially decorated cemeteries. They celebrate their roots, sometimes with music and prayers, and almost always with storytelling and a meal. In Pickett County, Tennessee, where the Cumberland Plateau and Highland Rim collide, one family keeps one of Decoration Day's oldest traditions, a swept graveyard. Lisa Kaufman takes us to the 200th anniversary of their Decoration Day.
At the Winningham Family Cemetery, Carolyn Massengale is conducting a master class for her 3 granddaughters. The tools at hand are a garden hoe, rake, and broom. The topic, how to mound a grave.
What we do is take a hoe and rake dirt up to where the grave is at. And remember, it needs to be fairly straight.
The red clay dirt is damp from recent rain. Carolyn selects a grave for Haley, age 14, to mound.
This one right here, Hardin Winningham. Hardin was your 6th great-grandpa.
Haley swings the edge of a hoe into the packed dirt and drags it into a narrow mound above the grave, as her grandmother directs.
Dig down and pull it up. Dig down and pull it up. There you go. As I said, it's hard, isn't it, honey?
Carolyn's teaching her granddaughters a practice that's been in their family for at least 2 centuries. The Winningham Cemetery is a swept cemetery, which means every last inch of its grounds will be hoed and raked down to the bare red clay dirt. That's done to clear all the debris, leaf fall, and scraggly plants that accumulate fast in these lush southern woods. Next, each of the cemetery's 51 graves will be freshly mounded. Last of all, everything will be broom swept until that red clay almost glows. It's all part of preparing the cemetery for the Decoration Day celebration, when kin will gather here from across the state and beyond. About 25 relatives have come out for 2 work days to prep the cemetery for decoration. There's a bustle of activity, the ruckus of chainsaws, a tractor moving dirt, and people hoeing and raking among the rows of graves. But it'll be worth the work, Carolyn says. Come decoration, all those grave mounds will be covered with flowers, artificial arrangements, fresh-cut bouquets, and even homemade paper flowers.
After decoration on Sunday, you can look back and it looks like lots of little flower beds here.
From April on into August, Decoration Day makes itself known throughout the Southeast, with entire graveyards suddenly spruced up and blooming. But there's one region where the tradition holds especially strong, says Joey Brackner, former state folklorist of Alabama.
It's really in Appalachian South where you get the fullest expression of Decoration Day. That's like the epicenter.
Joey grew up in Birmingham, celebrating Decoration Day. As a folklorist, he studied the tradition. The date for the holiday varies, depending on the family. Memorial Day, honoring those who served in the U.S. military, grew out of Decoration Day. But decoration, as it's affectionately called, has a different focus.
This is honoring ancestors and strengthening family ties and community ties and maintaining a cemetery.
From at least the 1800s well into the 20th century, maintaining a cemetery in Appalachia usually meant that you swept it, for the same reason yards around homes were swept, a sign of tidiness. Back then, graves tended to sink over time as the earth absorbed the wood coffin and body in it. So mounding graves was another important part of maintaining a cemetery. And, Joey says, mounded graves carried other important meaning.
It also reflects that you care enough to maintain that. You may have never met that person. I never met my grandfather, but I love him and I care for him and I respect his memory.
Joey, who's in his 70s, says swept cemeteries were a dime a dozen when he was a kid. Grassed lawns changed that landscape. So did major rural migrations out of the region. These days, tending cemetery grounds usually involves power lawnmowers and weed whacking. The swept cemeteries with their demanding physical labor have all but disappeared.
You have to drive a long way and up in the woods to find the very few where folks really feel like they want to keep doing that.
At the Winningham Cemetery, Samantha Harding scrubs red clay film from a headstone. She grew up several hours away, but coming for decoration has always been part of her summer. Samantha says it's an experience that fewer young people have now.
I teach high school, and so when I talk about this, most of my students have no understanding of what's going on.
She's cleaning a headstone in a road that's special to her.
This is my grandparents and then my uncle, who I was really close with. You know, more than likely my parents will also be buried on this road.
Carolyn Massengale, readying another grave for mounding, reflects on why they do this year after year.
I can't really put it into words, except it's just our heritage. It's ingrained in us that this is what we do.
Carolyn's a cancer survivor who once delayed chemo treatments because they conflicted with Decoration Day. She knows earlier generations kept the tradition going despite their own hardship, like her grandmother, widowed early with a large family to raise, or Carolyn's father, who lost a young son in a farming accident. Carolyn's tended their graves today.
I just hope they're proud of it. I just want them to be happy and to know that we still remember.
It's Decoration Day Sunday, and for its 200th anniversary, the Winningham Cemetery is filled with life. Kids run through the graveyard adding flowers to already decorated graves. There's a small band of family members playing music, preaching from a local pastor.
Oh, where's the sting of death going to be then? Old grave, where's your victory?
And after the prayer, a feast. The long table under the cemetery's covered shelter is crowded with the best from every kitchen. Carol Watson, who helped set up the table, explains.
Now this is what we call dinner on the ground at Decoration. Everybody just comes, they bring food, and we just eat like a bunch of pigs. We've got chicken and dumplings, we've got plenty of potato salad, we've got fried chicken, we've got some pork, we've got macaroni salad, we've got cornbread, we've got barbecue, and it just goes on and on and on.
All told, 10 generations of Winninghams are gathered at this decoration, if you count the ones above and below ground. The youngest is a month and a half old. The oldest is Anita Beeson, mom of 5, grandmother of 15, great-grandmother of 21.
I'll be 84-year-old next month, and I've come every year but one. Family togetherness means more to me than anything. And I'm just proud of every one of them.
This 200th celebration has drawn quite a crowd, nearly 275 people. That's part of the fun, says Lucas White, one of the musicians and a great-grandson of Anita Beeson.
I like just being up here, seeing all my family and getting to talk and communicate and share history and learn history and just figure out who's who and where we all tie in together.
Even though Lucas has been at Decoration every one of his 18 years, he says there are a lot of relatives here for the anniversary that he's never met.
Our family tree, it don't end, it just bends real big.
Sitting and taking in the scene as the afternoon wanes, Patricia Harding, Anita Beeson's youngest sister, feels the power of the collective past and of the future.
It's beautiful, and you've got the red clay, you've got the trees surrounding it that's brilliant green. And then you have the decoration, all the different color of flowers, and of course the sun's beaming down on it now, and I don't know, it's just brilliant, bright colors. Like a ray of hope, sunshine, like tradition and years past, and the future is here.
That story was by Lisa Kaufman. It comes to us from the Rural Remix podcast from the Center for Rural Strategies. The 25th anniversary of the Diamond Teeth Merry Medicine Show was held recently in Huntington, West Virginia. The Blues Festival honors a West Virginia native who hopped a train to flee her hometown at the age of 13. Her career crossed paths with a who's who of American music of the 20th century. WVPV's Randy Yohe has this story.
That is the traditional jazz and Dixieland sound of the Kitchen Syncopators. The senior citizen-laden band was perfect to kick off the Diamond Teeth Merry Medicine Show 2025, paying homage to Mary McLean. In 1916, as an abused teen, Mary fled Huntington from this spot on a train to first join a circus, then sing in a traveling minstrel and medicine show. Syncopators band leader Ed Fudd Light knew Mary's musical history quite well.
She was a great singer, great part of the original jazz and blues legacy of America. And so she was playing this music 100 years ago. She got started in more kind of folky country blues, going out with the crazy medicine shows.
Light said she was so good she got on vaudeville and then big-time music shows in the 1930s and 40s.
And then she got serious, she got religious, did great gospel music for the years, and then some electric blues guy said, "Hey, you're a blues singer," and then she closed out her life as a rock blues singer.
I'm begging, please give this poor dog a bone.
Here's a song Mary wrote in 1927, "Give a Poor Dog a Bone." In the 1940s, to gain some stage dazzle, the multi-talented lady took diamonds from a bracelet, set them in her front teeth, and Diamond Teeth Mary became her stage name. In 1988, the St. Petersburg, Florida duo Liz Pennock and Dr. Blues accompanied Mary until her death in 2000. Back for the 25th anniversary festival, Paul Dr. Blues Schambarger says the musical maven was larger than life.
That she was like three women in one. Sometimes she was very churchy, she used to call it. Sometimes did a lot of gospel, also did the blues, got her in trouble with her family, and sometimes very streetwise.
Dr. Blues says her memory was always intact.
She would tell us stories, find out later, you think that couldn't be true, find out later, it was true.
And what stories? Wikipedia notes that Diamond Teeth Mary played with Billie Holiday and Duke Ellington, lived for a time with baseball great Satchel Paige, performed for President Ronald Reagan at the White House. John Lee Hooker and Big Mama Thornton credit Mary with giving them their music business start. Dr. Blues says there's more.
She had letters from Michael Jackson. She showed us the letters that Michael Jackson had sent her. And actually there was a song by the band written by LaVon Helm talking about the women with diamonds in her teeth.
We are so happy that this has continued on for 25 years. It's a testament to the town, it's a testament to her, and just the culture of Appalachia. We take care of our own here, and we remember. So we're going to do a Diamond Teeth Mary cover. Papers are selling extra. Have you read the news?
That's festival organizer and president of the Huntington Blues Society, Karen Combs, who says honoring this Huntington native with historic plaques, a street name, and an annual music festival was a compelling duty.
It's good stewardship.
I would hope somebody would speak my name, after I've been buried for 25 years. It's just good karma. We need to take care of people and people that have made a difference and influenced other people and just been a part of so many people's lives. We need to honor that.
Mary asked that upon her death, her ashes be scattered here at Heritage Station, coming full circle from fleeing Huntington in fear for her life and returning with diamonds in her teeth. For West Virginia Public Broadcasting, I'm Randy Yohe in Huntington.
Till next time, thanks for joining us as we journey throughout Appalachia. Our theme music is by Matt Jackford. Other music this week was provided by the Jacktail Players, Dave Odell and Dave Bing, John Blissard, Larry Rader, Blue Dot Sessions, Dinosaur Burps, and Hello June. Bill Lynch is our producer. Abby Neff is our associate producer. Our executive producer is Eric Douglas. Kelly Libby is our editor. Our audio mixer is Patrick Stevens. You can find us on Instagram @inappalachia. You can also send us an email to insideappalachia@wvpublic.org. Visit wvpublic.org/insideappalachia to subscribe to our newsletter and stream all of our stories. Or look for Inside Appalachia on your favorite podcast app. Inside Appalachia is a production of West Virginia Public Broadcasting.